Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have dominated the console gaming market for decades, but a new competitor is entering the arena. Valve has announced the Steam Machine, essentially their second crack at a hybrid PC console, following the original Steam Machines from 2015 flop. This iteration features a semi-custom AMD Zen 4 6-core CPU processor paired with an RDNA 328CU GPU, housed in a compact form factor with console-style connectivity via HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort 1.4. This thing is built specifically for couch gaming on your TV, running SteamOS and giving you access to a massive library of Steam games, including former PlayStation exclusives that have made their way to PC. It's positioning itself as a legit alternative to the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, which is bold timing, considering Xbox is going through a bit of an identity crisis right now, with rumors swirling about where the brand is headed next. If Valve achieves an attractive price point and delivers solid performance, both Sony and Microsoft have reasons for concern. However, significant questions remain about the platform's viability. The most pressing concern is the Steam Machine's 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM allocated for gaming, which already presents constraints on many contemporary gaming systems. Modern AAA titles are increasingly VRAM intensive, and this limitation could significantly impact the system's longevity as games become more demanding. Valve likely chose 8GB to maintain competitive pricing and reasonable manufacturing costs, which is understandable from a business perspective. However, this decision means users will probably need to rely heavily on upscaling technologies like AMD's FSR3 or reduce graphics settings considerably to achieve the advertised 60 FPS at 4K resolution. The VRAM budget will likely be stretched thin on newer titles, particularly those with poor optimization. Gaming at 1440p will likely be the optimal balance, offering decent visual quality and performance without overwhelming the available VRAM. However, comprehensive performance testing and real-world benchmarks will be necessary once the device launches to properly assess its capabilities. Valve has demonstrated strong pricing discipline with previous hardware releases, most notably the Steam Deck's competitive positioning against other handheld devices. The challenge this time involves current market conditions. NAND flash and RAM prices are experiencing significant increases due to industry-wide shortages and substantial demand from AI data centers purchasing massive quantities of components. The hope is that Valve absorbs some of these increased costs themselves, leaning on their absolutely massive Steam storefront revenue to subsidize the hardware a bit. They've pulled it off before, managing to launch the Steam Deck during the pandemic when literally everything electronic was overpriced and hard to get. So there's precedent for Valve taking a hit on hardware to build their ecosystem. My personal guess is we're looking at somewhere around $650 for the base model. If it's much higher than that, it's going to have a really hard time competing with the PS5 and Xbox, which both have seen price cuts and bundle deals recently. The price needs to feel like a no-brainer for people considering jumping ship from traditional consoles. Valve sells the Steam Deck exclusively through their Steam storefront, which has effectively prevented the scalping and reselling problems that plague PS5 and Xbox Series console launches. They've implemented smart restrictions, like 1 unit per Steam account, making bulk purchasing by resellers substantially more difficult. But here's the real risk. If the Steam Machine remains only available through Steam, it could severely limit its market reach. While Steam is huge, over 132 million monthly active users as of 2025, that still represents only a portion of the global gaming audience. According to Newzoo, there are over 3.4 billion gamers worldwide, and console gamers alone account for roughly 3.1 billion. That means a lot of potential console buyers may never even consider the Steam storefront. Not everyone is familiar with Steam, and many console-first or less tech-savvy gamers may be put off by the idea of creating a PC-style account just to purchase a piece of hardware. If Valve really wants to go head-to-head with Sony and Microsoft in a meaningful way, keeping it locked to Steam only could seriously hold back the platform's potential to make a real dent in the console market. Here's where things get really interesting and a bit messy. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox and Microsoft Gaming, publicly congratulated Valve on the Steam Machine announcement. He posted an X saying stuff like, "Gaming moves forward when players and developers have more ways to play and create, especially across open platforms." He emphasized that expanding access across devices reflects Xbox's core values and welcome new options for players. The messaging sounds supportive and collaborative. However, Spencer's public stance is somewhat obligatory given the circumstances. with numerous industry analysts and publications examining how Steam Machine could potentially threaten Xbox hardware's future. Appearing defensive or threatened would be disastrous from a public relations perspective. Spencer's positioning of Xbox as an open platform advocate, even as Steam Machine could erode their market share, is a strategic necessity. The real question is whether Microsoft will back up that friendly talk with actual support. And here's where their track record gets really spotty. Microsoft has been pretty good about eventually bringing their games to Steam, which makes sense given how dominant the platform is for PC gaming. But when it comes to optimizing those games, specifically for Valve's hardware like the Steam Deck, it's been wildly inconsistent, and there's no clear pattern to explain why. Take The Outer Worlds 2 as an example. It's a story-heavy, writing-focused action RPG published by Microsoft, which makes it absolutely perfect for portable or couch gaming, where you can pick it up and play in shorter sessions. There's clearly an audience for this kind of game on handheld devices too. Just look at how well RPG heavyweights like Elden Ring, Fallout 4, and Cyberpunk 2077 performed on Steam Deck throughout 2024. And yet The Outer Worlds is only marketed as playable on Steam Deck, not verified. The distinction is huge. Playable means the game technically runs and you can finish it, but you might encounter some issues. Text might be too small to read comfortably, UI elements might not scale properly, or there may be performance hiccups. For a company that's actively trying to convince people to buy their own portable gaming devices, not optimizing a perfect fit title like this for Valve's handheld is just baffling. The inconsistency continues across Microsoft's catalog. Games like Gears of War Reloaded, Ninja Gaiden 4, and Avowed are all Steam Deck verified, meaning they run great with no issues. Then you have titles like Keeper, Grounded 2, and pretty much the entire Call of Duty franchise that are merely functional on the Steam Deck at best. Some of these newer titles might eventually get updates for better compatibility, but there's honestly no rhyme or reason to which Microsoft-published games get proper Valve hardware support and which ones get left in limbo. Steam Machine is going to be an even bigger test than the Steam Deck ever was. It's not just a niche handheld for enthusiasts anymore. This is a living room console competitor aimed squarely at the same market Microsoft is targeting, with whatever next-gen Xbox hardware they cook up. Valve might call it an upgrade for PC gamers who want big screen couch gaming, but the general public is absolutely going to see it as a console alternative. And honestly, if Valve prices it competitively and markets it similarly to mainstream audiences, especially PlayStation fans who've watched their former exclusives migrate to PC, or folks frustrated with Xbox's current direction. The fundamental question becomes whether Microsoft will commit to properly optimizing their games for Steam Machine. Spencer's social media presence suggests openness and collaboration, but substantive actions matter considerably more than public statements. If Microsoft approaches Steam Machine support with the same inconsistent and half-hearted methodology they've demonstrated with the Steam Deck, it could significantly undermine the platform's appeal to Xbox gamers considering alternative options. Microsoft ranks among Steam's largest publishers, as Spencer himself acknowledged. If their titles perform poorly on Steam Machine, that represents a serious obstacle to Valve's console ambitions. Conversely, if Microsoft genuinely commits to proper optimization, it could validate Steam Machine as a legitimate Xbox alternative and potentially accelerate traditional Xbox hardware's market decline. Microsoft faces a fascinating strategic dilemma. They've advocated a play-anywhere philosophy for years, emphasizing that gaming's future transcends specific hardware platforms and focuses on reaching players across devices. However, when a competitor launches hardware that could directly threaten your console business, that open platform messaging faces a genuine tangible test. The situation will likely clarify quickly post-launch. If major upcoming releases like the next Gears installment or significant Call of Duty entries achieve Steam Machine verification at launch, that signals serious commitment. If they merely reach playable status or require community workarounds and modifications, that reveals Microsoft's true position regardless of Spencer's diplomatic public statements. Thanks for watching! We appreciate you sticking around. If you want to see more things like tech and gaming, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to keep up to date on our content, don't forget to hit that notification bell. This is Game8Tech, signing off.